there's an area I need you to help the body heal in.
All right.
And that is particularly, well, not even charismatic or Pentecostal apostolic churches. My whole life experience is black church, so that's the only vantage point I can speak from. But I want you to help the church who addresses mental health as demonic activity.
Mm-hmm.
So somebody will come depressed or stigmatized with whatever. We immediately go to a flask of oil and call for the intercessors, and we're going to throw sheets on them. Is it for you? Is mental illness spiritual warfare?
Yes. Unequivocally, yes. It starts with the curse that the earth is under, thanks to Adam and Eve.
Wow.
So from that point on, something is going on. So yes, it is. There's a new flavor niche of deliverance that is coming up, specifically talking about being delivered from the demonic in your brain. So technology allows for you to put these EKGs on, and you can literally see manifestations of the demonic in somebody's brain.
Wow.
Literally.
Wow.
So what do you do with that? Do you take a pill for that? That ain't the way to deal with it.
No.
You deal with spiritual stuff with spiritual tactics.
Yeah.
And I curse what I can curse. I rebuke what I can rebuke. Lay hands on me. Put the oil on me. And we see it happen on Sundays. You know, I rebuke the spirit of death. I rebuke the spirit of depression.
Yeah.
The thing is that once the anointing wears off and that brain organ hasn't been helped, what does it do? It comes back and it plagues again.
I was at the jail a week ago, and the warden said something, Pastor Jasper, that has messed me up, that 67% of inmates in the jail are mental issues, which means we are criminalizing mental instability. So if the legal system is criminalizing mental health issues and the black church is ostracizing mental health issues, and you're dealing with a culture and a demographic that doesn't go to therapy, I want you to talk about to some parent, some pastor, some spouse who feels like their loved one, their significant other, is in that warfare. But don't have that level of self-awareness that you had to say, hey, I got to get help. What do we do?
All right. So one of the biggest things I found out is community is everything. I'm sitting next to you. There's this exchange of life. Imagine a ship with shipping containers pulls up and it's got all this cargo on it. Another ship comes and it starts to take the cargo off because this ship needs it to make to the next. That's the exchange of life that happens in the body of Christ. All right. So a community is very important on how it is that you move forward, because pain can identify with other pain.
Yeah.
But then there has to be a voice of reason. So I'm talking to a spouse, you know, my wife has a totally different approach to this. I'm talking to a spouse, I'm talking to a parent. First of all, it's being undiagnosed in the black community because black men aren't supposed to go through that.
Wow.
And so a black man just supposed to be strong and you know, do it. And he himself puts the pressure on himself. And so it goes, it's not that we have it more than another culture. It's that we just aren't diagnosed. And so if I can find a community that is a community of faith and I can present some options on how to make it through.
Yeah.
My community helps, but then I got to be responsible for bringing in voices and therapists and advocating even in the medical industry, in the medical side of, we got to help this problem. You said it when you started the podcast.
Yeah.
This is the next pandemic.
No, it is with us. The church at large has got to be more accountable and more responsible. I went to Duke Divinity School and had one class on pastoral counseling. One. It was an elective.
Wow.
That does not make me a therapist.
That's right.
And I want you to talk about the urgent necessity for the church to, one, encourage therapy and understand the difference between therapy and, quote, counseling.
Okay, so when I was at Salem, we used to have counselors on staff to deal with those kinds of issues. I've got a friend who, in his church, he gives space. Steve Thurston, as a matter of fact,
Okay.
in Chicago at Covenant, gives space for a therapist actually to be there and to minister to people. All right, so I get my therapy in one particular session, but then I get the medicine in another. So I'm talking about how I'm feeling, and once that comes to light, now I'm getting some help. I take my medicine.
Wow.
I'm gonna take that little white pills, I'm going to take that because the chemistry of the brain is off. So I'm supposed to walk around here being imbalanced.
Can you feel the difference when you don't?
Oh, yes.
You can.
And people around me as well.
Wow.
I'm going to give you one situation. We were supposed to have been evangelizing at the church. This is 4 or 5 years or so ago. And because I was undiagnosed, I got mad when people start telling me that they weren't coming. And I sent a message to my leaders. I hit send. It tipped over a bucket. Why are you talking to me like this?
Wow.
Who he think he is?
Wow.
Don't you know we giving of our time? But Jay, the problem is I didn't even know that the letter had the tone on it. When I went back and read it after I had settled down.
Yeah,
like,
you were tone deaf in the moment.
And you know what I did? I went back and apologized, but the damage had already been done. So yes, I can tell there's an awareness that I have after hours and hours of hundreds of thousands of hours of counseling and therapy that I can tell, nah, bruh, you ain't feeling right. And what exacerbates it is stress.
Yeah.
I can't believe I made it through the pandemic. I had just come back from treatment, first Sunday in February. The pandemic started mid-March.
Yeah.
And I'm having to deal with
Thank God you
all
made it.
pastors. Right.
Yeah.
Right. But it was them little white pills that did it.
What is the reality of being a pastor with bipolar disorder?
Man, that's a good question. What is the reality beyond this thing ain't gonna get me? I moved from, I updated my Facebook profile and I said, I'm done surviving. I'm thriving. Even with mental health issues, you can still thrive.
Yeah.
But you got to do your part. It's about eating. It's about reducing and dealing with your stress.
Yeah.
It's about your therapy. It's about you taking your medicine. It's about when I start feeling that thing come on me, I got to move. My therapist, when I want to sit down, I got to go do something, moving your body. So the reality is not everybody has to deal with life the way that I do, but I can still deal with life. That's where your theology comes in.
Yeah.
Your theology comes in that God is with me even through this. And that's why I am where I am now. I had to go through that to be a voice.
Yes.
To be a voice of hope and reckoning and an advocate.
One of the hardest crossroads I've ever come to in a Christian journey and as a man was about 7 years ago. I hit Pastor a brick wall because I was depressed and successful. And most people don't see the two working in alignment.
That's right.
People associate depression with failure. My church was growing. I had police outside directing traffic, 3 services on Sunday, but I knew I'd come to the end. And I was depressed because I didn't have a model.
Wow.
Of how do you leave what you started. And I had a self-imposed life sentence to say I got to be here forever. And the Lord circumnavigated the circumstance of my life. I ended up here in Atlanta, which really breathed life into me. Tell me how you got to that critical epiphany. It's time for me to shut down, move out of this building, do something different, reimagine what ministry looks like. Tell me how you got to that.
So, first of all, let me go back to you. I saw this one clip of you, and you start talking about, and you were in that gear, and you start saying God is gonna give it back to you. You were talking about depression, and I forget whatever else came in front of that. You said God told me He's gonna change your mind.
Yeah.
The thing about that is, what wires together, what fires together, wires together. So one of the roots of, maybe I should say, one of the panaceas of mental health is retraining how you think. And most often, you said a self-imposed sentence. Most often it starts with how we think about ourselves.
Yeah.
So now what got me to where I am is that, first of all, it felt familiar because when I had to leave, when I left Salem, I can say I had to leave because God was calling out.
Yeah.
When I left, it felt familiar. I got to trust God. And that's the same thing it felt like this time.
Yeah.
But people don't understand. Wasn't nothing wrong. You know, there was no scandal. There was nothing that was wrong. But because I knew what it felt like, I knew I couldn't stay where I was, or that would have made me go crazy.
Yeah.
And it's not that we stopped our Sunday mornings, but we believe that God is assembling and taking our voices, me and my wife's both, further.
He's gonna do it.
Yeah.
I am the better because of your bleeding.
Oh my.
Yeah. You did not leave a oil spill in aisle 9. But I'm telling you, your transparency is transformative.
Wow.
And I think that you moved into something. A couple of weeks ago, sitting in the chair you're in now was Cornel West.
I remember.
And Cornel West said something when we got off the air. He said, I don't understand your generation. He said, your generation has a brand, and my generation had a cause. And I thank Jasper Williams III. You have stepped into a cause.
Wow.
That is so necessary for ministry, for Black men, and even for marriages.
Yes.
Thank you so very much. This is...
Thank you.
This has been a